The doors sealed behind me with a sound like the universe clearing its throat. And suddenly, I was alone with far too many important beings, and one very unimportant human heartbeat hammering in my ears. The floor hummed beneath my boots, responding to something in the walls, the ceiling, maybe the stars themselves. I had learned not to ask. Every time I asked a question here, the answer involved 3 unfamiliar units of measurement and at least one concept that made my head hurt. The girl lay on the elevated platform, breathing shallowly, her long ears pressed flat against her hair as if they were trying to disappear. They twitched when I stepped closer. That small movement, more than the readings flickering in the air, told me she was still in there. Alive. Stubborn, I liked that already. Someone behind me made a sharp clicking sound. A warning, maybe, or impatience. Hard to tell with mandibles. I raised one hand slowly, the universal gesture for please don't vaporize me yet. I promise, I said, aiming my voice toward the nearest translator node. I've done this before, on humans. Which is statistically encouraging. The machine hanging near my shoulder rendered my words into a smooth, musical tone. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Not laughter exactly, but something close. Good. If they were confused, they weren't attacking. The wound was ugly in a way that transcended species. Energy burns always were. The alien med units had sealed the surface perfectly, pristine as glass, while everything underneath protested loudly. Classic mistake. Advanced tools rushed thinking. I reached into my kit, feeling painfully primitive among the floating holograms and self-adjusting instruments. My scanner chirped in protest, offended by the unfamiliar biology. "Relax," I muttered. "We'll learn together." Her eyes fluttered open for a moment, dark and reflective, focusing on me with surprising clarity. One ear lifted slightly, the tip curling. "You smell strange," she whispered, the translator lagging just enough to make it sound like an accusation. "Occupational hazard," I said. "You should smell the other guy." I worked slowly, deliberately. I ignored the weight of the gaze burning into the back of my skull. The queen, though no one needed to tell me that. Authority had a gravity of its own. I could almost feel it bending probability around her. Every movement I made felt like it was being recorded not just by machines, but by history. When my hands hesitated, I told a joke. When the silence grew too tight, I complained quietly about alien engineering standards. The med units recalibrated themselves in offended silence. The girl's breathing evened out, her ears lifting little by little, betraying relief before dignity could stop them. At one point, a guard leaned in too close, armor humming. I looked up and sighed. "If I mess this up," I said, "you can absolutely throw me out an airlock, but maybe wait until I'm finished." That earned a sharp exhale from somewhere. Humor, I'd learned, was universal. Not because everyone found the same things funny, but because everyone recognized defiance dressed as softness. The wound stabilized. Not healed, not yet, but no longer winning. The readings shifted, colors I didn't have names for settling into calmer patterns. I leaned back, finally aware of how badly my knees were shaking. Behind me, the chamber was silent. I turned, wiping my hands on my sleeve, and met the queen's eyes at last. There was no anger there, no suspicion, only focus, intense and quiet, like a star deciding whether to go supernova. Her daughter slept now, long ears relaxed, alive. I opened my mouth to say something reassuring, maybe even clever. The queen took one step forward, and the universe once again held its breath. Time did not resume so much as stumble forward, as if it had tripped over the queen's silence. I stood there with my hands still half raised, unsure whether lowering them would be interpreted as relief or surrender. The chamber remained quiet enough that I could hear my own pulse arguing with itself. The queen did not speak. Instead, she inclined her head slightly, a movement so precise it felt calculated by mathematics older than my species. The translator hummed, waiting. I considered filling the gap with another joke, then decided that joking at this exact moment might be how humans became extinct in this sector. Her daughter shifted, just a little. One long ear flicked upward, then flattened again, as if embarrassed to have moved at all. That small rebellion seemed to break something invisible. "She stabilizes," the Queen said at last. It was not a question. I nodded anyway. "She does. She'll need rest, monitoring, and probably someone to tell her not to get stabbed by plasma weapons for a while." The translator hesitated, then delivered my sentence with regal gravity. Several attendants stiffened. One of them glanced at the Queen, clearly alarmed that I had just instructed royalty in basic survival strategies. The Queen's mouth curved, barely, but it was there. "You speak lightly," she said. "I panic professionally," I replied. "It looks similar." That earned me a sound I decided to classify as a restrained chuckle. Progress. The medical systems adjusted themselves without being asked, as if accepting defeat. I stepped back, suddenly aware that my usefulness was decreasing by the second, and that in most civilizations this was the precise moment when saviors became prisoners. The daughter opened her eyes again, this time fully. She looked at me for a long moment. Her ears lifted, then angled slightly toward the Queen, as if checking whether she was allowed to speak. "Are you finished repairing me?" she asked. "Temporarily," I said. "Think of it as a ceasefire between you and your injuries." She considered that. "You negotiated with my body." "I negotiated with worse," I said. "One time with a man who thought he was immortal because his ship had cup holders." Her lips twitched. One ear betrayed her by flicking upward. The Queen watched this exchange closely. I could feel calculations unfolding behind her eyes, cultural algorithms colliding with something less predictable. Gratitude, maybe. Or curiosity. Both were dangerous in their own way. "You are not one of our healers," she said. "No," I agreed. "They're much shinier. You used methods that violate at least 7 of our protocols." "Only 7, I brightened. "I'm improving." Another pause. This one felt different, less like a judgment, more like a decision waiting to be born. The daughter shifted again, stronger now. "Mother," she said, and her ears angled back in a way that felt intimate. He stayed calm when everyone else was afraid. I opened my mouth to deny this and thought better of it. The Queen turned fully toward me. "Your calm altered probability," she said. "Our systems predicted failure. You did not." "I've always had a bad relationship with predictions," I said. "They never believe in me." Something subtle changed in the room. Not atmosphere, something deeper, like the rules adjusting themselves by half a degree. "Human," the Queen said, "you will remain." That was not phrased as an invitation. I weighed my options, found them imaginary, and nodded. Of course, I didn't unpack anyway. The daughter watched me with open interest now, her long ears tilting forward, unguarded. "You will stay because you choose to," she said. I smiled at her. "Let's call it a collaborative misunderstanding." For the first time since I entered that chamber, the tension loosened its grip, not because the danger had passed, but because something far stranger had taken its place. Somewhere between gratitude and tradition, between humor and fate, a path was forming, and I had the uneasy feeling it was already marked with my name. The declaration did not arrive loudly. It arrived the way gravity does, sudden only in hindsight. The Queen stood, and the chamber responded before anyone else could. Systems dimmed, then brightened, recalibrating around her will. I had the irrational thought that if she asked the stars to lean closer, they probably would. "You have altered the thread," she said, her voice steady, final. I glanced at the daughter, who was very awake now and doing a poor job of pretending not to listen. One ear was pointed directly at me. The other tried and failed to appear neutral. "I'm sorry," I said. "I tend to do that, threads, furniture, occasionally governments." The translator delivered this faithfully. Somewhere someone made a startled choking sound. I decided that was a good sign. "When a life is returned," the Queen continued, "balance must be restored. Our law is not punishment, it is continuity." I felt the floor hum shift beneath my boots, like the court itself was bracing. If this is about a reward, I said carefully, I really don't need. You will marry my daughter. The silence afterward was not empty, it was full. Full of history, full of expectation, full of me trying very hard not to laugh hysterically, faint, or ask if there was a pamphlet. The daughter made a noise halfway between a gasp and a laugh. Her ears flushed, yes, flushed, and she covered them with her hands far too late. Mother, she said, you cannot just. I can, the queen said calmly. I am. I rubbed my face. Okay, I said, so just to clarify. This is not a metaphor. It is not. And not a figure of speech. It is binding. And not, I added weakly, a joke. That was when the daughter looked at me directly, really looked, not as a patient, not as a curiosity. He does not even know my name, she said. The queen regarded me. You will learn it. I exhaled slowly. Something in me shifted then, not fear exactly. Acceptance maybe. Or the realization that running had never once improved my life. For the record, I said, I did not save her life to marry into a royal family. I know, the queen replied. That is why you must. The absurdity of it cracked something open. I laughed. I couldn't help it. A short, disbelieving sound that echoed far too much. This is unbelievable. The daughter smiled despite herself. One ear flicked toward me. You negotiated with my body, she said softly. Now you must negotiate with my people. I met her gaze, saw curiosity there, strength, no fear. I'm very bad at negotiations, I admitted. But I'm good at staying. The queen stepped back, the systems brightened, the court breathed again. You will be given time, she said. Choice is still choice, even when guided by fate. Later, much later, I stood beside the daughter under unfamiliar stars that hummed with orbital traffic and distant engines. She leaned on the railing, alive, whole, stubbornly present. You can still leave, she said. I thought about who I had been when I arrived. A man who fixed things and moved on, who never stayed long enough to be claimed. I think, I said slowly, I already changed the thread. Her ear brushed my arm. Not an accident. For the first time, the future did not feel like something chasing me. It felt like something waiting.